There is such emphasis on the self-improvement world. But what the problem is that puts our enlightenment out in the future somewhere at some better place in some other time. Do X, and then everything will be okay, right? The paradox that we have to hold is that we are in every moment both being and becoming. So both are actually always happening. However, there's an unfolding, but it's an unfolding through being.
Welcome to the Mind Tracks podcast, where we explore breakthrough ideas on how to live your best life possible. I'm your host, Dr. Paul Scheele, and today we're diving into a powerful conversation about peace, presence, and returning to our natural state of being. My guest is Holly Erin Copeland, an ecologist, meditation teacher, and author of Inner Rewilding. She brings together ecology, neuroscience, and direct awakening practices to help us reconnect with what's already whole within us. In this episode, we'll explore why the mind's natural state is peace, how striving and self-improvement can actually keep us stuck, and what happens when we allow emotions to move without resistance. Holly introduces the idea of rewilding the mind and shares simple yet profound ways to restore coherence, clarity, and alignment in our everyday lives. If you've ever felt overwhelmed, disconnected, or burned out by constant doing, this conversation offers a refreshing invitation to slow down, listen deeply, and rediscover the quiet intelligence already guiding you. Let's get started. Hello, Holly. Welcome to the Mind Tracks podcast. Glad you're here.
Thank you so much. I'm so delighted to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. The thing that I enjoyed so much about reading your book, Inner Rewilding, is the arc of your journey and all the discoveries that you made and the conclusions that are really helpful for anybody in a modern society. Could you start by explaining what it means to rewild the mind and what it was in your own life that set you on that path?
Sure, I would love to. So there's a concept in ecology called rewilding. And what that means, I was an ecologist. I worked for the Nature Conservancy for 20 years, so I spent a lot of time exploring these ecological ideas and trying to make ecosystems more healthy and vibrant and preserve them. And in that, I learned about this concept of rewilding, and really what it means is to return nature to her natural state. We do a lot of monkeying around with the environment. We've spent, all the different ways that we extract resources, we kind of have allowed imbalances. Our modern society kind of creates imbalances in our ecological systems, and rewilding is, again, bringing her back to her natural state. And what happened to me on my journey was this deep recognition that actually, I'm going to kind of jump to the conclusion, then we'll wind our way back, that in order to see the world, the more beautiful world that we all want so badly to be here, that we need to actually rewild ourselves, meaning we need to return our minds to its natural state. And I don't think most of us know what that even means. I certainly didn't till I came on this journey. I thought that having that sort of living, as a scientist, I was bred to think critically and analytically, and I spent most of my life kind of in my head trying to figure my life out and my way through problems. And I didn't realize until first I started studying Tibetan Buddhism and these deep teachings of Mahamudra and Dzogchen that I was exposed to and then trained in. I didn't realize that actually what they point to in these teachings, and of course many other spiritual teachings, but these are the ones I first was introduced to, is that the mind's natural state is actually a state of peace and rest. And that we can use meditation, we can use entheogenics, we can use many different techniques, breath work, to actually help us return the mind to its natural state. I know that's some of the work that you do too. So that was a flip for me. It was a huge realization that actually the mind's natural state is to be at peace.
Isn't that gorgeous to even contemplate?
Right?
Yeah. So we say there's five natural emotions, peace and groundedness being one of those five. And it's fascinating to have read your book and know you as a scientist, because when I went to the University of Minnesota in biological sciences, my emphasis was on ecology as well. And I intended to get a master's degree in science, in ecology. And really, it was a program that came years after I went to school, which environmental studies were not really available then. And even to get a master's degree required that I go to a different university to study ecology. It was really a curious sort of thing. But at the same time, I was also introduced to an ancient tradition of Raja Yoga and came to absolutely the same conclusion. You can't put a cork in a smokestack and expect that that's going to heal the environment, right? And ultimately, we're brought back to it's those of us that inhabit the environment that need to recognize the impact that we're having. And if we improve the quality of our thoughts, we improve the quality of our interaction with the environment, and therefore able to help out, becoming a benevolent presence on the planet instead of a real catastrophe and wherever we go. So I really have a heartfelt connection to that journey that you went on. So when it comes to the idea that we need to return to this essential state of being, being really present to that true nature that we are, I know that a lot of people come to this out of a sense of moving away from stress and thinking, well, if I could just improve myself, become a better person, then it will all be fixed. But you have found that there's something other than self-improvement that's a better way to getting to that state of being. Could you describe what it means to accomplish that
Yeah.
state of being?
Yeah, I think it's a huge aha, right? Because there is such emphasis on the self-improvement world, that, but what the problem is that puts our enlightenment out in the future somewhere at some better place in some other time when we'll suddenly have
If
magically,
only I
yes,
could just, yeah.
do X, and then everything will be okay, right? And it isn't to say that there isn't what the paradox that we have to hold is that we are in every moment both being and becoming. So both are actually always happening. However, so there's an unfolding, but it's an unfolding through being. And so the way to me, the sort of first step is actually to come back to being. And then you kind of end up being with the becoming. So it's sort of a natural evolution. But it's better in my mind to point to the being, which is what all these spiritual teachings point to as well, to coming back to what the Tibetans call the ground of being, which is the recognition that we are not separate, which is the recognition that our true nature is right here in every moment. Hence the reason that there is no self-improvement project, because who you are and who I am is already essentially whole and perfect and complete. But in order to know that, they call it the pathless path. In order to know that, it's a way of seeing, it's a way of knowing, and it's not a doing.
Yeah.
And right?
And that really is the essential paradox is, okay, so how do I do meditation? How do I do the state of being?
Right.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, you're
it's exactly
already,
not that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. You're already there.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the mind goes, what are you talking about? And so then we have to help the person to step away from the mind and open up to the being that's here. And that's what as a meditation teacher, what the guidance, if you come and listen to my tracks, the guidance is around pointing to your true nature. So it's a process of, again, it's a process of seeing.
Well, in the tradition of the Buddhist meditation, we know that Siddhartha, on his path to becoming the enlightened one, the Buddha, he encountered a lot of negative emotions and tend to happen, right? When we close our eyes and we go inside, we encounter a lot of what we've created in the world or what we're struggling with in the world. And how does your process of rewilding help to address ourselves compassionately when we encounter all of those fierce emotions and failures and mistakes and shame and whatever else might show up for someone?
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an important question because ultimately it's so important that we're not bypassing what's real in someone's experience, the real pain, the real sorrow, the real trauma that people have. And in my path, so in the process of inner rewilding, there are the four main steps: awaken, attune, allow, and align. And that third one, allow the flow, is really where that's the part of the pathless path that for me really addresses this, because this is where we go into, and as Rumi said, welcome those strangers, welcome every emotion that's here, that it's that we give it space, but we come from the thing is that when you locate the ground of being, when you come to know the fullness of who you are, then you can embrace, and you have more space and more capacity to be with the anger, to be with the shame, to be with. And the miracle is that as we cultivate this way of being with whatever's happening, with the emotions that are present, then they start to move. So the thing that keeps our sadness and our anger trapped is our resistance to it. It's our pushing, no, I don't want that. I don't like that. And we say no to what's here. But in fact, when we do a U-turn and we start to welcome these emotions, that allowing and that welcoming it's like magic. It allows the energy to flow. Breath really helps. And it's just an energy. It starts to move. And if we wait long enough, it will move away. It'll digest or compost through us.
Yeah, I love the idea that these sorts of emotions come to pass, not to stay. And if
Yeah.
we were to welcome it and be present to it, there's often quite an important message within them as well,
Hmm.
helping in the healing journey as we're getting to that
Right.
recognition of the true self. So, one of the things that you speak about quite a bit is the idea of coherence, certainly within our nervous system, heart coherence, a la heart math, and even in the biofield as you did tuning and a tuning of your biofield. So could you explain what role coherence has in someone's inner life and what can somebody do to actually start experiencing more of that?
Yeah, thank you. It's a great question. So, this shift towards coherence is a different way of looking at the body as a physiological system than I would say conventional, medical wisdom has trained, or taught us, right? So just to sort of first frame that the conventional way of looking at the body is very biochemical, and there isn't a lot of conversation about the energetic body because that doesn't really exist in formal medical training, to my knowledge. I'm not a doctor.
Consciousness? What's consciousness? Yeah,
Right?
chemical.
Right. And so, but this, so first it invites people, I'm inviting people to look at the body in an energetic framework as an energetic electrical system. And in that energetic and electrical system, there are sine waves, there's rhythms, that everything is energetic, meaning everything has a frequency. And, the heart, all the organs in this framework have a different frequency. And coherence is like the, it's like a smooth sine wave where everything is operating like a symphony in harmony. And Heart Math has done some most beautiful work on this. So I like to point to them because they've, Dr. Roland McCrady's he's just done his homework, right? And he talks, for example, about the heart having that each of us has a coherent rhythm, like a coherent, the heart itself has a resonant frequency. That's what he calls it. A resonant frequency. And when we breathe at around 6 breaths in, 6 breaths out, so it's a little slower, a little longer than our normal breathing, we can bring the body into this resonant frequency. And it turns out that resonant frequency actually matches very close to the Earth's Schumann resonance as well, that we're being bathed with in the ionosphere every time, there's a 7.83 hertz frequency in the Earth's atmosphere itself, and that we have that within us. And so, but when we're nervous and anxious and we're kind of in a worked up state, we're not in that kind of coherent resonant frequency. But the point is to know that it's accessible. We can bring ourselves back into that through breathing, through this slow breathing, or through I love working with tuning forks. They support that. Through being in nature, that's another reason. Through grounding, put your feet on the ground. So humans, there are many ways to come back into this coherent rhythm. Many people know that they feel better when they go for a walk outside, or they're in a park, or they're at the beach, or they're at the forest. But we haven't necessarily known why. And I guess as a scientist and somebody who's like the consummate why kind of a person, for my analytical mind, when I know the reason behind something, it helps me put the pieces together. It helps me, I find it motivating to know, oh, okay, when I go to the beach and I'm hearing those crashing waves and I'm putting my feet in the sand, well, actually what's happening, even though I can't see it, is there's these frequencies I'm receiving from the waves and from the sand, and it's bringing my body into coherence.
Yeah,
and that's why I feel better.
Right, the
right?
ions in the air.
Yes, exactly.
And
So,
what's also curious for me, Holly, is that some people will find that at the ocean side. I find it up in the mountains when I'm standing in a trout stream, and there's
yeah.
so much experience, and I could just stand there by the hour. I'm fly fishing, but it has absolutely nothing to do with fishing. It has everything to do with the interaction with nature in those moments. And that's restorative to me. I mean, you could lay me on a table and do crystal bowls or Tibetan bowls or tuning forks or anything like that. And those are good, really good. And it's a substitute for
Yeah.
being in the natural world,
Yeah.
right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. I love to fly fish as well. So I feel you with that standing in the small trout stream, and I think that more that we connect the dots with what is happening physiologically, how
Yeah.
we're wired, and how nature supports us naturally, the more that we'll be also motivated to help protect her and keep her, in, you know, to do all the things we can do to protect nature,
In its
because
pristine
in its
states,
pristine
yeah.
and natural state, yes.
So let's talk a little bit more about how our attention gets really fragmented and overstimulated in our modern society, and what can happen to get ourselves out of the mental noise that we're experiencing in the world and more to the true signal that's
Hmm.
trying to get through. The signal to noise ratio.
Yeah,
If we've got
right.
too much noise and not enough signal, or, how do you recommend that we start to get our attention back to
Yeah.
where it needs to be?
Yeah, beautiful question. So the 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 problem with our modern world, and I'm glad you brought this focus on attention, because what happens is that, from my perspective, it feels like, and I'm speaking from my experience, and especially before this, all this work I did. Like, there's a me in here, and I have to attend to the objects out there. So my experience ends up being that my mind is jumping from, doing the dishes to attending to this email to, whatever, to driving the car. And I'm constantly kind of doing this back and forth, me, world, me, world, me, world, me, world. And that I think is actually the process we're in. We're creating the fragmentation. And the recognition, the aha that I had, was that there's a place you can rest wherein you can be with the world, but you're actually like resting at the same time that you're doing. And that might sound to those who haven't experienced this kind of ground of being, that may sound kind of, what do you mean? But to come back to your true nature, or your, as again, the Tibetans, the ground of being, is to let yourself rest as the awareness that you are. Right now, everybody listening, there's are you aware? Right? There's an awake, aware presence that's here. And that presence isn't doing anything. It's just actually just being with what is. And so you can begin to cultivate a way of being that's like taking your hands off the steering wheel and kind of operating almost like you're operating a driverless car. It's like you're in this driverless car, life is carrying you through. Yes, I'm aware of different things and, needing to eat or whatever, but I'm not constantly trying to kind of control or reach out. It's it,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a
I,
way
I
of letting the flow happen in life happen, right?
see, and I'm glad you brought it to the idea of flow, because you can be in a very active state with a lack of self-conscious awareness and just be immersed in the whole thing. You don't have to shut the world out in an isolation chamber in order to be in that.
Yes.
So thanks for
Yeah.
talking about that. And I love that that really is the rewilding of our attentional field, is it gives us a recognition that I can immerse myself in all of this and maintain a clear sense of presence, being
Yeah.
present and sensing. And
Right.
this idea of letting go and letting come what's next, as opposed to trying to predict and control what I'm going to have to do next in order to make the world right, is a really important shift that someone could be able to make with the
Yeah.
right guidance. And I think you really do provide it. And if I could go on that, how do you sense we can get to that lack of self-conscious awareness where me as a separate self dissolves into this greater field of energy on a daily basis?
Yep.
What would you recommend?
Yeah. Great question. So the thing is that you still have to practice it. You have to. It's a it's a way of being, but it has to be pointed out. It has to be practiced. And so,
Nice. I
yeah.
want to say that I am aware of the deep ecology movement
Mm-hmm.
and the idea of the nature principle and the power of awe as a way
Mm-hmm.
of using nature to do that. So that idea of creating a practice, I absolutely love. So what practice do you find most helpful for you and your clients?
Yeah. I mean, the first thing that I say is and that I teach my clients is just, to cultivate ideally a morning practice, that's anywhere you can start at 15 minutes or 10 minutes if, that's what can be work in your life. But and my practice has evolved over many years, but
Mine
so
too.
you don't have to start with an hour like I do, but you do need to be guided and practice. And I came from a place where I was first introduced to meditation when I was 14, and was told to stare at a candle, and it was ridiculously hard, and I gave up because I did it for 15 minutes and I was like, what's the point? I don't get it. And and I tried it a couple times and I gave up. So I get it. Like, meditation isn't necessarily the easiest thing. But what I do recommend, and I have many of them, is to use a guided meditation, because it's like, to me, it's like training wheels. To get on the bike, it's really helpful to have training wheels, to have somebody point you to this nature of being that you and I are talking about. And it isn't natural. If you just sit down and follow your breath or watch a candle, you aren't necessarily gonna. You'll eventually get there. The Theravada Buddhisms and Zen Buddhists will tell you will eventually get there. But most of us don't have the patience, to meditate for as long as it would take to get there. And the beauty with direct awakening practices and the modern practices that I teach is that you can do a 10 to 15 minute guided meditation and start to be pointed towards what you and I are speaking about, towards this nature of being.
Yes, and once you have a taste of it, once you've put your foot in it, once you can sit with it, you'll know that it calls you back. And it is its own self-reinforcing mechanism that if I don't do these practices, my day doesn't end up the
Right.
same. I'm in a
Right.
very different place at the end of the day. And so it eventually we land on what is non-negotiable. It's like flossing my teeth,
Yes.
brushing my teeth in the morning. It's not up for discussion. It's not like,
Right.
will I do it today? And
Right.
so my meditation teacher says we're always training our inclination as opposed to creating a discipline that you must follow. It's
Mm,
really training your inclination to recognize what really works, to
mhm.
bring your daily rhythm into this sense of balance. And I remember going to a silence meditation retreat in my very busy world. To get 10 days wasn't happening. And so I said, could I come for 5? And he said absolutely. And somewhere around the first day, he said, all those practices and disciplines they used to give you 30, 35 years ago. I'm thinking, yes. He said, forget about them. Just find 2.5, 3 minutes to drop into a place of silence throughout the day. So I did that and said, that's it. And you have to train yourself in how to silence the mind, right? How
Right.
to withdraw your attention from the world to this place of being. And once you're there, once you've tasted it, coming back to it is much easier.
For sure. Absolutely. It brings you back again and again once you've tasted it. I agree.
Yeah, and I appreciate that you say there isn't just one path. There are many, many ways. And what I loved about your book is how many 1 foot holes you dug to find the 50-foot hole that you would eventually dig, right? And really attune yourself to. But that exploration and the long circuitous route that you took to find your four practices or principles is really lovely. And would you just go through those four briefly
Yeah.
before we wrap up?
Yeah, sure. So there's these four pillars of inner rewilding, and they are not necessarily meant to be a path. So as I say them, our mind wants to go like, well, this is the first and this is the second, but it doesn't really work that way. They work synergistically together. But what I say is that these are like pillars. These four, to me, are the key principles, and they weave in and out of our lives. But the first one is awaken to peace. And this is what I sort of began with, that, the recognition, the central recognition that our true nature is peace and happiness. And we can discover that right now, not as something in the future, but something that's available now to each and every person. So that's those practices that point that out. The second one is attune to the living universe. And this is really speaking to the coherence piece that you and I spoke about, that we can use this living universe that's surrounding us to bathe us in coherent frequencies, and we can start to attune to that through, breath, through tuning forks, through going outside. And there's this subtle energy world that, I sure didn't know about until I started this work, that is available to really start to tune into. And it's also the space of intuition. It's where we actually start also to come, we come into our hearts and out of our minds. And that resonance, that's a physiological thing that's happening. It's not a woo-woo thing. It's like real coherence. When we're in that coherent state, there's also like an opening channel for the spirit, for the universe itself to speak through you. That we're surrounded by an alive, intelligent universe that is speaking to all of us. Doesn't
That
necessarily.
actually brought us here as a part of an evolutionary impulse,
Right,
right? So we
right.
showed up at this time, and our children,
Hmm.
interestingly, are born into a universe that's evolutionarily more advanced than we were. So it behooves us to attend to what it is they're saying,
Right,
right?
right.
Sorry for the
No, it's
sidetrack, but
perfect.
please
I
keep
love it.
going.
That was a perfect addition. Yes, exactly. Then the third one is the allow the flow. And this is the piece that all, this deep surrender that we must make in order to, and this is the embodied emotional piece, right?
Yes.
So this is how we work through and not bypass the feelings of anger and shame and guilt and judgment, is that we surrender into what's here and we allow the flow of life. I love the Buddhist nun Pema Chodron has a saying, feel the feeling, drop the story. And I really love that. And I did that practice myself. If I would, I just remember this time where there was a person at work and I was infuriated by what he was doing. And I was like, okay, Pema says, feel the feeling, drop the story. So I just sat where I was in the car and I let all this anger at him just like wash through me. But I let go of the story. You're actually just feeling the sensation of anger in your body without a story attached to it. And what she says and what I noticed was that in about 2 minutes, it actually went away.
Oh, yeah.
I felt it super deeply and just kept feeling it and feeling it and feeling it. And then with no story, it actually, the story is the fuel that keeps it going, right?
That it is. And I've worked a lot with Byron Katie,
Mm,
and the work of Byron Katie really talks a lot about that. Who would you be without that story? Well, I would just be present, right?
right, 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 exactly. And
And it also allowing us ourselves to recognize that we are actively maintaining the untoward emotion by the stories we hold. We also then begin to recognize what that causes within us and to choose freedom, right? To
right,
choose joy is really then very much available as opposed to
100%.
it's that person who's making me so miserable, right?
Right, right,
Good,
exactly, exactly.
good, good.
And that's why that sort of last piece, the fourth pillar, is align with your wild heart. And what happened for me is exactly what you're saying, is that when we allow the emotion to flow through and we stop resisting it, we just be with it, then actually this natural joy arises in there. It kind of comes first as a peace, but if you keep working with it, it will come as a joy. And then the alignment is to just actually just feel, well, what is in deep coherence with my being? And this is where, to me, this is the service or action in the world piece. So we take action not from a place of contempt and anger, which was where I came from, by the way, before. So I was trying to save the world from all the humans who were hurting her. That was my old way of doing it. But the problem is that I was so angry at, I didn't actually realize, but it was in me, except I didn't realize it, that I was motivated by fear and anger. And instead, by
Well, and I
right?
would say those are powerful motivators.
They are.
They aren't. I mean, there is nothing that will energize us to make a change more powerfully than anger and fear.
Right.
However, it's poison,
Right. Then
really poison,
it will motivate you, but then you're living in a state of anger and fear, whether you realize it subtly or
and
not so subtly.
toxicity,
Right.
right? I mean,
Right.
yeah,
Right. So it
it's all
creates a
kinds of bad.
toxic energy that you're bringing into the world. And it's not the kind of, fierce love that's more of like the Kali, I'm in an empowered, loving state to take action, which is a very different energy. And so your come from switches from a place of fear to a place of love. I feel so deeply held. I feel so deeply already whole and okay that now I take action from that place, and it's completely different. And you don't burn
Beautiful.
out. You don't burn
Yeah.
out when you come from that place.
Yeah, the distinction between the heart coming from a place of passion versus a place of rage
Yeah.
is a very different energy. And passion is as powerful or more so than rage.
Right.
So if we're enraged about anything in our lives, what is it that we stand for that's our true passion? And we'll really find it. It will show up for us just that fast
Yeah.
if we will be in there and hold
I
it. And
I
then there's a
totally agree.
sense of contentment, gratefulness.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. And
beautiful.
then it's like, the beautiful thing is it really doesn't matter what your passion is.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like it,
Contribute it. That's what all that we need is for you to
right.
contribute that.
That. I mean, it can be my passion is to caretake my mom. I mean, that could be somebody's passion, and God bless you if that's your work in the world, you know. And it could be I'm serving at a coffee shop because I just love interacting with people. Like, that's my gift, is to just, you know, be in service in this way and serve people coffee. I tell my daughters that, like, I don't care what you do, just do what you love. Like, it, really, truly, if you decide you want to work in a coffee shop and that's your, you know, way of being, go for it. Just find something you love. And, you know, I didn't necessarily get that message. And the message I kind of got from society, less so from my parents, but just from culture at large, was like there was a model of what it means to be a successful individual.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Yeah. And we kind of lay these on people, and then they feel guilty and they kind of burden themselves, or I'm not good enough. I haven't, you know, succeeded. And by God, I mean, the funny thing was that I was remarkably good at all of that kind of outward success as a scientist and, you know, as a student and all of that. But then when I finally got there, I found out that, you know, it'll burn you out doing it. And if your motivation, if your come from isn't actually the deepest feeling of alignment with your acceptance of yourself and alignment with your path, then, you know, you'll ultimately wake up someday and not be happy and then wonder what
Yes.
happened.
And there is such a living energy in that. And that's why your concept of rewilding and really coming back to your true nature and seeing yourself having come from nature into this world and reclaiming your natural state, all of this is a very coherent message. And I really do want to encourage our listeners to get into your work, see it, recognize it. I know that when we're living from that place of a truly passion-centric way of being in the world, coming from being rather than doing first, then the world is a better place, and the human family will recognize we're here for each other, and to create our human family as part of a natural web of life again,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and to be in harmony with Pachamama. It's a very important thing. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you. What you've shared is great. Could you give any kind of final word benediction for those that really do want to practice being in touch with being?
Yeah. Oh, thank you. You know, I always love to close with, it's quite simple, actually. And I think spirituality can be overcomplicated. And so I really want people to feel empowered to come back to the goodness and the truth of their own heart. And you know you're in coherence when something feels right to you, you know? Like that inner feeling of, oh, yeah, that. Like that's actually a coherent signal from your heart. You could even say that's, you know, the language of God speaking through you. So use those simple cues of what feels like good in your heart and warm and expansive as a sign that you're on the right path. And yeah, first and foremost. And I do think, you know, commitment to giving yourself some time each day. The morning is a beautiful time, you know, to give yourself time to drop in, you know, ideally do some kind of guided meditation or guidance support to really learn how to reconnect with yourself. It doesn't have to be a long thing. It can be 10, 15 minutes. And it can have profound changes in your life.
Gorgeous, beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much, Holly.
Yeah.
Really a pleasure to be with you. I hope we get to cross paths many more times in the future.
I hope so too, Dr. Scheele. Thank you so much for having me on.
Peace and
You
blessings.
too.
I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Holly Copeland. To connect with Holly, visit her website at www.hollycopeland.co. As you heard in our discussion, peace isn't something we need to achieve. It's something we return to when we stop resisting and start allowing. Holly shared how coherence, presence, and reconnecting with nature can gently dissolve stress and bring us back into alignment with our true self. In the next part of the show, I'd like to build on these ideas and talk with you about specific paraliminal audio sessions you can use to support this process. If you're new to paraliminals, these guided audio sessions engage your whole mind, conscious and non-conscious, in about 20 minutes. They're designed to help you release old patterns, reduce resistance, and embody the deeper truth of who you are. In the next segment, I'll highlight 5 themes from today's conversation: returning to being, inner coherence, rewilding attention beyond the separate self, and embodied inner guidance. Let's get started. Hi, welcome back. This is the follow-on to my conversation with Holly Copeland and the idea of inner rewilding. Say that 5 times fast. It's so cool for me to be with her and see all of the similar lines of convergence that she and I have both experienced in our lives, coming to the depth of the work that we're both doing. And I was so glad to be able to share her with you, and also want to invite you to go deeper into the main concepts that she and I discussed by using paraliminal technology to help out. So I have identified 5 major themes in the dialogue with her. The first one is the concept of returning to being rather than doing. The second is about inner coherence. The third, rewilding our attention. The fourth is getting beyond that separate self to a place of really feeling the interconnectedness that we have with all of life. And the fifth and final is to really embody a sense of inner guidance. As she mentioned, our soul self, if you would, is really there to assist us in our growth and development, or our returning to the fullness of who we are, if we're attending and if we are recognizing the communications that are coming to us. So let's get into it. In the first area, the idea of returning to a state of being, the paraliminal that can really help is called deep relaxation. One of the very first audio cassette programs I ever listened to brought me through a process of point-to-point relaxation from head to toe. It's called a progressive relaxation technique. So one of the first paraliminals I ever created was called deep relaxation, and it is one of the longest paraliminals, as I take you through a very slow, methodical relaxation of every part of you, from the crown of your head down to the soles of your feet. That brings us to an ability to drop into that state anytime that we might want in the future. So deep relaxation is a great way of returning to that sense of beingness within ourselves. The second area is this idea of inner coherence. And when I work with people in my inner circle, I always have them use a heart math device called inner balance. It's something that clips onto your ear. It gives you a real-time biofeedback readout of heart rhythm variability. And it gives you a sense of the degree to which your heart and your mind are in a state of coherence. And it's a great biofeedback tool, gives you some information, but it also helps you set the space, set yourself for whatever work you might be doing, like meditation or physical practice of some kind or a writing practice you may have, whatever it might be. So I recommend whatever you can do to get into states of inner coherence. And I do have two paraliminals that I think are very helpful for this. The first one is called joy, which really gets us into a very positive, open emotional field that gives us an uplifted sense of ease and balance. It helps us move from that place of passion, which Holly and I talked about a lot at the end of our session. This place, this passion in our heart could either be out of rage or it could either be out of passion. And if we follow our passion, the way is always made much more easy. The second paraliminal that I believe can help quite a lot is gratitude. There are several ideas, several emotions that can be helpful. Gratefulness, the gratefulness, or gratitude really is a good one. So, joy and gratitude, very powerful paraliminals to create a sense of inner coherence. The third area is this idea of rewilding our attention. And while I do say that it's not about more capacity for doing and more a sense of being. The idea of rewilding our attention is to be choiceful about where our attention goes. Our energy flows where our attention goes. You may have heard that idea. So the concept of directing our attention is really helpful with the paraliminal called focus and concentration. It helps to clear the noise. It helps us get a nice focused attention on what it is we're choosing to create. Very helpful. The second paraliminal is more when we feel like I'm just inundated with so much, and my attention is really scattered and fragmented. Overcoming overwhelm is a great paraliminal that can help. It takes you through a process I call dropping in. It shows you how to do it. It gets you past any kind of overwhelm and cognitive overload and gets you on track with what it is that you're choosing to create. The fourth area is getting beyond that sense of a separate self. Now, Holly mentioned on several occasions the idea of welcoming emotions, and that's really at the heart of a technique called triple welcoming, and in the center of a paraliminal called letting go. It's Hale Dwoskin's work, the Sedona method on letting go. And the way it works is when you have an emotion coming at you that you would just as soon resist and hope to avoid, giving what she referred to as a bypass, bypassing. I've heard the term spiritual bypass, where people just learn to go numb in relaxation techniques instead of really addressing what's coming up. So the triple welcoming technique is to welcome the emotion that's there, and then could you let it go? It's quite a powerful process, the letting go paraliminal. And in the fifth and final area of our dialogue, we talked about this sense of an embodied inner guidance. And one paraliminal that will help a lot is called intuition amplifier. So it really helps us receive the inner guidance that's coming to us through our intuition. If you read Holly's book, you'll discover quite a lot about her coming back to that inner guidance. And the intuition amplifier is really there to crank the signal and reduce the noise so that you get a much clearer connection to what it is that's trying to be communicated from the brilliance that's within you, that true power and presence that you are. And with that, those are the key themes that emerged. I hope you had as much fun listening to Holly and I in our dialogue as I had having the dialogue. So it's a real pleasure to be with you. Thank you for being here and hope to see you again soon. Bye for now. Thanks for joining me today. I applaud your willingness to maximize your potential. You can easily use the paraliminal audio sessions in the MindTracks app to stimulate your non-conscious mind, that is your inner mind, to reduce any resistance in your life and propel you toward the success you want. Go to www.mindtracks.com/go. These amazing audio tools have helped millions, and I encourage you to bring them into your life today. Be sure to be back for more episodes of the MindTracks podcast. You'll find insightful conversations with authors, experts, and thought leaders, all devoted to improving your life's experience. And if you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, share, and leave us a review. Your support helps us keep the momentum of transformation going. Thank you again for being here on our MindTracks podcast.